Selamünaleyküm.
Selamünaleyküm.
Değerli katılımcılar,
Distinguished participants
Helal Gıda Fuarı'nın izleyicileri,
and the audience of GİMDES International Halal Gıda, Halal Food
seminerimize hoş geldiniz.
Fair. I would like to salute you with the salutation of Allah the Almighty and our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today we'll be discussing the critical points in halal food. All right, so the name of my presentation is the critical points in halal food and the product with GMO and Chimera. Chimera, I believe, will be very important in the agenda of the world in the future. So while starting my speeches all the time, I give a reference from the very past to our father Adam and our mother Eve. You know that our first test was about the food, and the food test was the first one that we have lost. So the food issue can and shall not be connected to poverty or economy, etc., but it is one of our most fundamental problems, as our father Adam and mother Eve did not obey the rules of Allah and ate the food there and lost their privilege to live in the heavens. Therefore, halal gıda, the permitted gıda, and the food is very important in our lives. So let's talk about the verses in Quran. By the way, I would like to ask my assistant to do some settings that will allow me to see myself on my screen. You see my presentation on the screen, don't you?
Slaytınız gözüküyor hocam. Hiçbir problem yok. Slayta geçip devam.
Right now we can see it. You can continue. I think it doesn't work.
Kendimi göremedim arkadaşlar.
This is Maide 87. It tells us that, O you who believe, do not forbid yourself the good things which Allah has made lawful for you, and do not exceed the consumption of them. This is verse Nisa 20. This is Nisa Surah and 23rd verse. That gives us information about the haram and halal. You know that when the mother breastfeeds the kid, if the kid is fed by another mother who is who is lactating at a period, these two kids shall not marry in the future. So the adventure of halal food starts from our infanthood, from our babyhood, and it even covers the period that the babies are breastfed until they reach 3 years of age. In my presentations, I always used to ask my audience that, why they prefer to be knowledgeable about halal food. And according to answers that I have received, I see that there are three sides to that: social, political, and technical. And we see that until 1960s, or maybe until 1960s or 70s, the 80% of Turkish population used to live in rural areas, and only 20% used to live in urban cities. As we were living in the rural areas in the country, we would see the products that we grow ourselves, and we would eat them. I remember my father, who started growing wheat with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and they would cultivate them afterwards. I remember my mother starting all the cooking with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and she would serve us that food. So we used to see everything that we grow and that we harvest, and we would make food from these products. Or even if we don't grow them ourselves, we would consume the goods that are produced, that are grown by the other people living in our village. So we would have our halal rules very easily in our daily lives. So when, for example, there was a person in the village, if a person in the village, does not comply with the Islamic rules of, production, harvesting, growing, etc., we just wouldn't consume the food that is grown by that person, so that we would, protect ourselves in terms of consuming only halal food. I remember a lot of, incidents that, for example, the ox in, the cow, let's say, of one of the villagers does eat the grass in the field of another villager. They would, make everything halal by giving that villager some part of the milk of that cow, so that it would be deemed as a payment to the grass that is, consumed by the cow without permission. So the Islamic rules were applicable in our time in the villages of Anatolia in our country. And even the thieves, when they stole an ox, would cut the throat of the ox, starting with Bismillah. Even thievery was in the rules, was within the rules of Islam. So this is very important. This was very important in the eyes of the Anatolian people until the high technology, when the migration from villages to metropolitan cities started. Then these kind of things became more difficult. We did have a visit to Greece, and we went there, and they asked us what we wanted to eat, and we were kind of afraid to have meat, red meat, because it could have been haram, and we said fish, we would eat fish. And we still couldn't be sure, and we went to the kitchens, and we saw that they are frying fish in the same oil that they have fried pig before. This was the first thing that we had the idea that in order to consume halal food, you don't need to consume only a halal product, but the whole production process should be halal as well. So this was the social side, when people started to understand things. About the political and the technical side, we of course the level of education increased in Turkey. That opened the doors to increase the technical knowledge as well. In the villages, people lived by the rules of Imam, and whatever Imam said was accepted to be true. But since the children of these villagers, went on with their education, and when they, went to the universities, etc., they have, became aware of some other criteria and some other rules. For example, FAO. It's the the foundation of agriculture of the world, for the Federal Agricultural Organization in agriculture and food. The WHO in health, in UN in politics, or NATO in security, WTO in commerce, and IMF in economy, ICC in law, and UNEP in environment, for example. So these are some supranational authorities covering in their expertise. Therefore, in these conditions, you have to be international, and we are managed by these organizations who have no Muslim members within. So UN is, for example, here the UN, the political organization, the United Nations, consists only non-Muslim members. The other organizations are likewise. So we can deduce, we can assume that they do not follow the Islamic rules in their production. So we have this question marks in our minds whether we can trust the internationally produced food, and whether we can live by that. So of course not. Therefore, the Islamic states, started an initiative that would allow them to produce and monitor the food production systems in terms of being halal or not. So let's say Turkey. Turkey is that Turkish production is subjected to the Turkish food legislation and the directive of non-alcoholic products. And according to this regulation, if the beverage has less than 3 grams of alcohol per liter, this this beverage is accepted as non-alcoholic. But on the other hand, it is not halal, because in order for a beverage to be halal, it shall have 0 content of alcohol. So this is like a contradiction between the Islamic law and the state law. Let's have another example. In organic agriculture, for example, this is like one of the most the most up-to-date examples and information in our day. And people would normally prefer organic products. But we have to, think about the fact that, for example, you can grow a pig in an organic way. You can do it, and then you can extract organic gelatin from this organic pig. So it is okay. So this organic gelatin can be used to create some organic food. So if you, for example, produce a soft candy or an organic gum, chewing gum, from this, organic gelatin from an organic pig, would it be halal? No. So organic agriculture is not equal to halal food. So organic, being organic or not, is not really related to the fact that a food is deemed halal or haram. It's totally irrelevant. Therefore, the global organizations and the food certificates that they issue actually does not interest us, because their criterion, their standards are different from ours. And the Muslim consumers have different priorities, and halal food production should take into consideration all the processes of the production process to be halal. So, we should start the halal food with halal seeds and halal embryo. The biotechnology is very important here, of course. The human have 2 essential sources. The humans do feed from 2 essential sources, the animal food and the plant food. So embryo is the fundamental of the animal food that we have, and seeds are the fundamentals of the vegetation, of the plant food that we feed on. So you may ask whether embryo could be halal or haram. I can say yes, because thanks to biotechnology, we are able to define the halal status of embryo. The devil, of course, hidden some information from the people after Adam and Eve was fired from the heavens, and we have decided, with the help of technology, we have decided to unveil the hidden things that are hidden by the devil. In the past, when we had this first technology, we warned people about, consuming only halal food that is, gathered from the halal sources and processed with halal methods. Nobody, paid attention, and then we are seeing the result. The COVID-19 pandemic is the result of the fact that people did not pay attention to our warning. So, when, for example, my friends who didn't pay attention to my words received an email from myself when the pandemic started, because I told them so. I warned my audience in each and every national and international seminars that all these biotechnological products must be, evaluated, must be audited meticulously and with the utmost care. I emphasized that all the time, and I always said that in the future, the halal food will be the only acceptable food for the humankind in the future, because the biotechnological products, especially the GMOs, genetically modified organizations, are never allowed in halal food production methods. So halal starts with embryo. We are telling people that for years, and today I will be talking about that. And there is another issue that's called chimera. I will be also explaining what it is. Chimera will be something that will be discussed a lot, especially in terms of confusion between halal and haram. And it will shed light to our path in terms of diversifying the halal from the haram. If Allah allows us, we will discuss it more thoroughly in the future. So let's skip to the technical side of things, to the point that natural embryo is standing for the last 100 years. In the past, of course, 100 years ago, we had only natural embryos and natural seeds. By the way, which is defined, natural seed is defined by the fact that, you have a product, and this product, let's say it's wheat. This wheat gives a seed on its own at the end of its life cycle, and you take this seed and recultivate it in the earth, and in the next season, you get wheat from that seed. So this is a definition of natural seed. And this Turkey is very rich, was very rich in terms of natural seeds. And these seeds constituted an important supply of raw materials for Turkey. For example, we have a Turkish bacon that has nothing to do with pig, only from the cattle, but we flavor it, we season it with pepper of Jirgalam, which allowed us to promote our pastırma, which can be translated as Turkish bacon or Turkish jambon, to the world, with 100% halal status. So this is important in our culture. After the natural seeds, the hybrid seeds can be mentioned. As the third, the transgenic seeds and embryo were made, and nowadays we are talking about chimera plants and chimera animals. It is a type of biological production type, which allows us to see chimera plants and chimera animals. that will allow us to control the halal status of the food that we intake. We also have the cloning, the copying, the cloning process. Here, the cell that you produce in the laboratory can be reproduced and can be cloned within the laboratory as well. This is the process of doing this. So, let's give an example to hybrid plants. Well, lavender is actually the best. The violet is the best example of that. For example, we can combine the yellow violet and the purple violet, and we reach a hybrid violet that has two colors. This is like a combination, and it has nothing to do with the irreversible biological change. This is a hybrid that can be separated anytime. So we do not create any variety here. It's like it's like breeding a horse with a donkey. Their baby will have no ability to reproduce. So this is like a hybriding model between the horse and donkey as well. And the mule, that is the offspring, shall have no capacity to reproduce, to create its own offsprings. So this is also, my defense on Darwin's evolution theory. They are very close to one another. The horse and donkey are very close to one another, and they're according to Darwin's theory, they should be able to produce their own spring, and there should be a combination, a new variety, a new class of animal from their reproduction. But their offspring does not have the ability to reproduce. So we had, a professor who gave us a homework once. They said, where the humans come from. One of the students asked his father, who was an evolutionist, and the father tells the son that we are coming from monkeys. So the same guy goes to his mother, who is, a very religious person, and the mother says, "We are coming from Adam and Eve." The boy, asks his mother what she thinks about his father's opinion, that we are coming from monkeys, and the mother says, "I don't know about your father's side of the family, but my side comes from Adam and Eve." So this is like a small joke. This is, the thing. The story goes like that. There is no change here with the hybrid seeds. There is no combination of there is no irreversible combination of two different species, two different types of organisms, let's say. The technologic hybrid is, it can be defined as the process of coming together two different plants or products to create a new one, which creates a biological diversity, but which is always irreversible. If it is applied in an uncontrolled manner, if, say, for example, do that with melon and watermelon, it can create a hybrid watermelon, and it would threaten the natural biodiversity. This, for example, may happen to the horses, and it happens to the peppers in Turkey. If you do that all the time, in 300 years, for example, one of the species that you used to produce may start to lose its biological originality, and you may create an unhealthy type of breed that wouldn't constitute a benefit to the human. And this is like a process. It's like a technological development. The first is natural, then it becomes hybrid, then the third step would be the GMOs, the transgenic goats, for example. We see the goat here. We see the genes, and we change the genes of a halal organism and a haram organism, and there could be some exchange of transgens. And the question here is that is whether the halal is contaminated with haram, with some transmissions of genes between two different species. One is halal, one is haram. This is very important as well. The second question that we might have is that the ulama of Islam, the scholars of Islam, deem that there is a confusion in these transgenic products, and they never issue a certificate of halal to the products that are produced in these methodologies, because with this technique you can transfer any kind of genes from any organisms to any kind of other organisms. You may question the problem that it constitutes, but the fact is that while doing the genes transfer, agrobacterium is used. The seed of this, the nucleus of this agrobacterium is taken, and it is transmitted to the target organism, which creates a which creates some cancerous cells within the target organism. And our questions start here. The first thing is whether the intermediary is halal agrobacterium, whether it is halal or not. And the second thing is that Allah warns us not to exceed the limitations in Quran, but this transgenic mutation, this transgenic production actually means exceeding the limits a bit, and creating smart cells and creating smart cell membranes and so on. This is important. If you create a cancer, if you infuse some cancerous cells into that structure, that is not in the purpose of this original organism, the divine purpose of this original organism, you distort their originality, and you create a contamination, and this becomes one of the leading reasons of allergenic diseases. And another thing is that you need to use some antibiotics to repair the cell membrane that is deformed, and this of course arises a suspicion about the state of natural and the state of halal of that product. So these and similar, reasons are the cause. It's speculated that they are the causes of many actual diseases that we have nowadays. And during the process of pandemic, we see that lots of data that confuses us a lot. The virus is expected to survive in one patient's body, but it does not, and they don't expect the virus to survive in a very healthy person's body, but it does survive. And it is like very contradictory data, a data that is not expected by anyone, by the scientists. And we are going through a period that this let's say bio suspicion is like its highest level, and it is very unpredictable with these transgenic products and transgenic organisms, but it is still going on. It's still continued, and it is allowed in the necessary areas, etc. But when it is not necessary, like in the utilization in food materials, for example, the experts are opposing, and as GİMDES, we do not issue a halal certificate to such products. Chimera is like a genotype carrier. If you ask me to, if you want me to similarize it with an actual example, I can tell you that it's like in vitro birth. I can tell you that. With Chimera technology, you will be able to grow some animal's organ, a vital organ, in the body of another animal. For example, the rat and the mouse may share the same organ, and the rat and the pig may share the same organ. If you can, for example, transplant a human's heart in the body of a monkey, then you can maybe afterwards able to transplant that heart into a human again. So maybe in the medicine it will be necessary in the future as well, but in the food production we can say that it is definitely haram. It's like at the beginning of my presentation I told you that a child who is breastfed by her mother, and if the child is breastfed by another woman, then in the future this child and the child of the other mother may never have marriage. It is not jais, it is not halal to marry with your so to say the milk sibling, and this process is similar to that. Of course, I leave a question mark here about Chimera, and in the future we will discuss it more in detail. So this is Chimera, from hybrid to Chimera, and the products that have been produced by using this kind of technologies. This is soybean. It's one of the most popular products that GMO is applied to. We see the soups and ice cream cones and coffee and any other all the other products that we can see are using GMO. So I have exceeded my time, I know that, so I will ask only 2 minutes of your time. This is another list that the GMO maize is used. This is, by the way, the organic pig and the transgenic pig, and the way that they look. We can, play and manipulate each and every gene that we that we want. And this is like this was the unfeathered chicken, and this is actually a bull, but it is so mutated with transgenic organisms that this is like a torture to the animal, but its meat is not differentiable in the butchers, in the meat store of the supermarkets, for example. But it is haram, of course. And these are the natural food. These are the examples of, for example, these are the lamb chimera. The examples of lamb chimera. And the chimera monkey has been made as well. So at this stage we repeat our motto that halal food starts with halal embryo. I will give you one highlight as well. Maize and corn is like one of the most transgenic targets of the practitioners, and beta toxin genes are injected to corn, but the animals who are fed with this GMO corn, and the people who eat the meat of these animals and drink milk of these animals, and the women and their kids have 93% beta toxin in their bodies as well. They cannot be degraded by the other enzymes in the human body, so it leads to multiple diseases. Just a sip of milk, a glass of milk is very important for the whole human race, which is also told us in the Quran, in the Surah of Nisa. The biological interaction between the baby and the mother in the womb is important.
Biyolojik bir etkileşimle anne sütünde hep antitoksinler varken
These antitoxins are available in the breast milk of the mother, but you just inject beta toxins to the body of your baby, which would not be able to digest it or degrade it by the body, and which will be carried by that child until he dies.
Eğer hanımlar hamile öncesi ve süt emzirme sonrasına kadar
This is important because the pregnant woman, especially the pregnant woman, shall pay the utmost attention to their dietary habits. So, can you please conclude your presentations?
Okuyarak bitiriyorum. Efendim, onlar ekini nesli bozar. Allah fesat çıkaranı sevmez. Efendime söyleyeyim, ey iman edenler, Allah'ın size helal
Allah
ettiği
does not love
şeyleri
those
haram
who
kılmayın.
exceed the
Bu
limits.
hududa aşmayın.
Never make
Doğrusu
the
Allah
things
aşırı
that are
gidenleri
limited
sevmez.
in Quran.
Teşekkür ediyorum.
Never try
Allah'a
to make
emanet
them
olun.
halal. Thank you all.